I knew something was wrong the second I stepped outside that morning. The air felt too still, the creek sounded different, and my stomach twisted before my brain even processed what I was seeing. My bridge, the little wooden footbridge my dad and I built years ago, wasn't just gone. It had been shredded into splinters and dumped into the water like someone had murdered it. And standing there, arms crossed, sunglasses gleaming with that trademark smug shine, was the last person on earth I wanted to see Melissa Harris, the queen tyrant of Oakcrest Ridge HOA. And before I even opened my mouth, she gave me a smile that said she thought she'd done me a favor. I never imagined I'd be the guy yelling, "I'm not even in your HOA," across a creek at 7 o'clock in the morning. But there I was. I grew up on this land. 50 acres of old fence posts, stubborn grass, weathered barns, and the kind of quiet you don't appreciate until someone tries to take it from you. My great-grandfather bought this property long before the nearest paved road existed. My family repaired, rebuilt, and preserved it for 4 generations. Nothing fancy, nothing flashy, just real work, real sweat, real memories. But then the mini-mansion development sprouted up on the hill next to me. Identical mailboxes, manicured flower beds, cookie-cutter everything. At first I didn't care. People can live how they want. But then came the HOA. And along with it came Melissa, a woman whose personality could only be described as clipboard with legs. The first time she yelled at me was over my cows. Apparently they mooed too much. On my farm. I laughed, wrote a polite letter back, figured it was done. Then came complaints about livestock odors, rusty tractors, barn aesthetics, lack of neighborhood cohesion. Every letter more ridiculous than the last. But the worst part wasn't the letters. It was the way she talked. With this air of absolute authority, like she'd been ordained by the universe to control everything the sun touched. Then she saw the bridge. It wasn't pretty, I'll admit. It was old, sun-bleached, patched up a few times, and made of rough timber. But it was mine. A memory. A piece of my dad's hand still out there in the world. Melissa looked at it like it was a disease. She marched right up in a hot pink blazer that hurt my eyes and declared, "This will need to be removed." Just like that. "No," I said. Calm, direct, final. Her eyes narrowed. "Anything visible from HOA property falls under HOA regulation." It was such a cartoonish line that I actually laughed. I told her she had no authority on my land, wished her a good day, and walked away. I should have known better. You can't embarrass someone like Melissa and expect them to go quietly. The week before the incident, strangers appeared near the creek. Clipboard people, surveyor types, a contractor with reflective stripes, HOA board members staring through binoculars from their balconies. Then came the final notice printed in dramatic red letters demanding immediate removal of the bridge for safety concerns and visual disruption. I ignored it. My first mistake. The morning they tore it down, the sound of chainsaws jolted through me like electricity. When I saw the workers ripping apart my bridge, something inside me cracked like bone, like pride, like memory. And Melissa stood there supervising like she was hosting a brunch. "What do you think you're doing?" I yelled. "Removing an unauthorized structure," she said lightly, adjusting her sunglasses. "This is my land. It was visible from HOA property." She shrugged. "So it fell under our standards." I pulled out my phone. "I'm calling the sheriff." The crew scattered like startled deer. Melissa didn't blink. She just smiled and said, "You're making this harder than it has to be." Harder. She said that while standing in front of the wreckage of something my father built with his own hands. When she finally walked away, hips stiff, like she thought she'd won, I felt the rage settle into something cold and sharp. I took photos, videos, documented every footprint and tire track. I backed everything up twice, then called the sheriff and my lawyer. My lawyer, Daniel, didn't even let me finish before saying, "Send me everything. This is going to get interesting." But even with the sheriff confirming it was criminal damage, even with Daniel drafting a demand letter, I didn't feel victorious. That afternoon I walked the creek alone, staring at the broken wood washed up on the bank. I remembered sitting there with my dad, bare feet in the water, listening to old country music crackle through his radio. And now it looked like the aftermath of a crime scene. That's when the doubt hit. Maybe I should have just repainted the barn. Maybe I should have responded to all those stupid letters. Maybe ignoring Melissa was a mistake. Maybe fighting her was pointless. I stood there, fists clenched, wondering if I was just being stubborn, wondering if all this anger was worth it. But then I found something. A work badge, dropped in the mud. I called the company, and the foreman admitted Melissa told them my land was HOA property. She lied to hire them, lied to justify the demolition, lied to bulldoze her way to control. And that snapped me out of it. This wasn't about aesthetics or rules. This was about someone who thought power made them untouchable. Someone who believed they could take what they wanted because no one had ever stopped them. I was done doubting myself. When the sheriff returned for a follow-up, he shook his head and said, "They don't have a leg to stand on." And for the first time, I believed it. But Melissa wasn't done escalating. She shoved letters into my gate. Threats. Claims that anything visible from the HOA would be removed without warning. At one point, a drone hovered over my field like some kind of suburban spy satellite. Then came the injunction she filed claiming I was harassing the community. Baseless, laughable, desperate. But desperation is exactly what made her sloppy. The real twist came when I got a recording from a neighbor who'd attended an HOA meeting out of pure curiosity. Melissa stood there waving papers and declared publicly that the HOA had full jurisdiction over all land visible to its residents. The room erupted. Her own board members looked horrified. When my lawyer heard the audio, he said, "This is gold. She just admitted to everything." We filed, hard, fast, and thoroughly. The court hearing was packed. You'd think someone was hosting a free barbecue. Melissa strutted in like she was walking a red carpet. Bright blazer, pearls, perfect hair, confidence radiating off her like static electricity. Her board members, on the other hand, looked like they'd been dragged in against their will. Daniel laid everything out. The photos, the drone sightings, the contractor's confession, the threatening letters, the fake map Melissa had given the board. Yes, she'd actually manipulated a property map to make my fence look like it was on HOA land. When the judge saw that her eyebrow raised so sharply it could have cut glass. Then Melissa took the stand. She tried to sugarcoat everything. I was protecting the community. I acted for the greater good. His bridge was unsafe, unsightly. The judge paused. Unsightly. That's your justification for demolishing a structure on private land. Melissa doubled down. It was ugly. The air left the room. People actually gasped. One man coughed so hard he had to stand up. The judge leaned forward. "We're done here." Those 3 words hit harder than any gavel. Melissa's face drained of color. She tried to speak some half-formed excuse, but the judge shut her down with a raised hand. And then she delivered the verdict. The HOA was liable for trespassing, harassment, destruction of property, and Melissa's actions would trigger a full county investigation. $8,000 in damages, full legal fees, mandatory oversight. Melissa collapsed into her chair like someone had unplugged her. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just breathed deeply for the first time in weeks. When the hearing ended and people filed out, Melissa marched up to me, jaw tight, eyes burning. "You ruined everything," she whispered. "No," I said quietly. "You did." She stormed out. Her board members didn't follow. I stepped outside into the sunlight, and for the first time since the chainsaws, the world felt balanced again. Not fixed, not healed, but balanced. Melissa's fall wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It wasn't televised. It was quiet, small, real, just like justice often is. And if there's one thing I learned from all of this, it's simple. When someone builds their power on lies, all it takes is the truth to collapse everything they stand on.